Alright, let's get right into it. Here's the part I broke. It came off my transmission in a Tesla Model S, model 2014 P85D. Here's the under frunk section. You can see we're going to have to remove pretty much all of this, including the battery tray, the main battery, the subframe, the motor. Everything needs to come out. So I built this little device to kind of hold up the motor temporarily while I remove everything else. As you can see, I got a tiny little parts collection going on so far, and that's going to get a whole lot bigger as we keep going. As you can see, here's the front drive assembly with the drive shaft removed, and here's the bolts that go into the motor mount. You can see two of them are sheared off, one is cracked, and one is still holding it together. So we're going to take out the battery tray for the 12 volt and just put that right there. You can see here where my front motor contacted the 12 volt battery mount, and this transmission piece actually hit the power steering pump. Here's some of the cooling lines you have to disconnect from the frame so you can get everything out. Here's a nice little ground connector that is just sneaky and sitting there right on the ground strap. You're going to want to take that ground strap all the way off too. They said to move the coolant to the side, and I decided just to take it out because it made a lot more room and it was easier to work on everything. And also, don't forget the connector for your levels. You can see this goes into a right there. And there's the connector, so don't forget. Here's the collection now, looking a little bigger, but nothing's really happening yet. Here you can see the fluid going to pump. I forget. They say to just take it off with the car. So just pop this bad boy out, give it a nice little tug, and get to work. Pull off those little clips and push the hose back through. Here's the underside. You can see the skid plate here. The bolt heads took a lot of damage, so you just cut a flat blade into them, I guess. I don't know what else you're gonna do. This is the rest of the I guess under the front motor, you would call this. You can see the chill plate and steering rack. There's a little bump stop right there. There's the chill plate, as discussed before. This is just a nice little shot of the underside again. This is the battery going towards the front. You're going to see a lot of this sort of stuff through the rest of the video, so you better be ready. And so to take out the battery, we decided to build an entire cart to wheel it around the shop. So that was about a day and a half of fooling around just so we could remove the battery. It's pretty simple, but if you don't have the tools, you're gonna struggle to get it out. I've seen Rich do it just with jacks, so I mean, go nuts, really. I just wanted to take a little extra time and try to do it a little better and make sure I didn't break this ridiculously expensive battery pack. Put a nice little coat of paint on it, make it look a little better. Here we're taking out the bolts that hold the battery to the body, and they're E something. I'll show it in a second here. They come out pretty easy, not under a lot of torque. And this one is super corroded for some reason. I couldn't find a good replacement for these, so I just kind of went with it. As you can see there, it's an E12. Here we are with the what do you call that bad boy? It's a caster wheel. Some steel caster wheels we're putting on the cart that we made previously. Just some regular old bolts, nothing fancy here. Just makes it easier to get around and do what you got to do. Here we are starting the setup. We kind of just going in blind here. Not a lot of information on this, so just keep taking out bolts. I think it's 16 bolts total going down the side rails. Just they say to not use an impact on this, so I just went the old-fashioned route. Got me a ratchet and went to town on those bolts. A lot of arm strain on this bad boy. So take your time, just get a creeper, have a tea, enjoy your life. Here you can see 4 on that 4 on the front, 4 on the back, 8 total each side. And then at that point, there's also going to be some sneaky bolts back here, really small ones, holding some more of these plates together. So you're gonna have to take those out too. I didn't see them mentioned in the manual, so maybe I just missed it. But we took apart some of the rear end so we could see what was going on and get a better look. Just take off all the aero in the back and have a look at the rear motor and what's holding the battery in. After all that's done though, it just pops off. We'll show some more close-ups of the connectors, because I didn't know how some of this worked. I couldn't find much information on it. So you just have, there's a main power connector in the back, and then you have your coolant in the front, and then I guess the brains of the operation is also back there. You're gonna want to not recycle that. So here you can see, here's the main power connectors, which are absolutely tiny. I don't know how they can possibly push that much current through them, but that's why I'm not an engineer. I'm just a guy taking apart a car. You can see they're absolutely just minuscule, just nothing at all. Here's the front where the coolant sloshes around and gets through the battery. I had no idea that was a quick disconnect, so that's very cool. After this you can see a lot more of the front motor, more of the logic. You can see there's a pump on the left that comes out with the motor right there. I don't know what most of this stuff is. Somebody probably does. I didn't need to learn what it was. There's your pyro fuse under that little bit. You're gonna take off your stabilizer bar. Here, this is where we start to take out the subframe and give your air pump a little jiggle. If you got time, make it jiggle. Here we are, just taking pretty much any bolt you find on the subframe, just take it off. I made this clip too long, so we're just gonna sit through this for a few more seconds. Alright, here's a tiny little bolt. I didn't know they even made inverted Torx heads like this, and this one is unnecessarily tiny. You don't have to take it off. I want you to know about it. Here's another, it's either a pump or a valve, I can't remember at this moment. I'm gonna assume it's a pump based on that connector, but who knows. Just anything you see clipped onto the subframe, you're gonna want to take it off. Just super simple. Here's the there's 2 pumps on that frame right there, and then there's your suspension compressor. Take that off. Take off this whatever in the front. Take off just everything. Take off your steering rack and try to make a mark of which directions it's at. I don't know how to describe it, but you can get off 100 or 360 degrees on that, and it'll just throw the car in a loop. So you want to take note of that. Here's the front suspension. Just disconnect all that. Take off your suspension arms. Here's a little bit of the damage I found from. My car's actually a salvage, which is why I ended up doing all this work myself. So not too bad. There's a little bit on the brake. According to the manual, you just tie everything up with a rod or whatever you have. Make it look like a marionette party in your frunk. Everything there, just get it on top of the subframe so you can drop it out. And here's my old man.
Alright, so check it out. Under the Tesla here, this is a 2014 Tesla P85 dual motor. What we're going to do is build us a subframe, front subframe remover tool. Using the old jack here, take that out, the old tranny jack. So what we need to do, find some mounting spots and make a subframe holder.
And then he decided to not take any video of it. So here it is, completely finished and attached to a regular old tranny jack. You get those anywhere. Here it is going up into position. It just uses a couple bolt holes to line up. In the front here, you have to kind of drop it down at an angle. I don't know if they want you to remove the bumper or what, but just kind of go for it, I guess. Pull it back, give it a little wang jangle, make sure she's coming out nice and smooth. Once you got all that done, it's pretty simple. It's just a regular old sway bar. It's not a sway bar. There's a sway bar on it. It's a subframe. Don't don't get all ahead of yourself. The subframe's got the sway bar on it. It's the sway frame. Just push it out of there. You don't need that. Get it out of here. Here's some part numbers. We're gonna take a little tour around the subframe. Not a whole lot. It's just a steering rack, sway bar, and the mount at this point. Kept the arms on there. It says to I think in the manual they want you to actually take the arms off, but that seems very unnecessary for every subframe I've ever taken off. Here's the part number from the Land Rover, which is actually where the steering rack comes from. After that's out, you get a really good look at what's going on here. You can see the motor. That's about it. But there she is. There she blows. You can see this is the side with the rotor and the stator and all that. And here's your transmission in the center, of course. Here's just me starting to make a mount for the motor, which was a complete disaster. There's nothing flat on it. I just kind of kept putting stuff together till it looked like it was gonna be kind. Here you can see the high voltage lines. You can get to those from the driver's side wheel well, which is probably how you're gonna want to do it. And then right here, it's pretty simple. At this point, you're gonna have most of the connectors off, but there's one on the top that I completely missed for whatever reason, as well as a ground strap on the that would be on the driver's side. I'll show more detail of that when it comes up to. But the basic unit is just like a regular old engine, except it only has a handful of connectors on it. So it's gonna be pretty simple. You see, it's got motor mounts just like a regular engine does. Just drop it down nice and slow. No need to get ahead of yourself. You don't want to damage that bad boy, especially with that terrible mount. So here you can see one of the sheared off bolts, another sheared off bolt. We already saw the broken piece, and I could not for the life of me find just this part, so I ended up buying an entire drive unit. Here it is on another rack that we built, and I completely forgot to plug and drain the transmission fluid, which is also basically impossible to find for this engine. I ended up using a Dexron 6. Here you can see there's some nice little wedge spots. It's super easy. You just come through, take out your, what is the name of that thing? You just come through, take out your intermediate shaft. No big deal. It doesn't have to actually pop off. You can just spin it out of the way, even though I tried for some reason. So then you're just going to take out all your bolts. No big deal. I expected a lot more of this, which is why I set up this camera. But here we go. You just give it a little... give her. You get her done right here, and it just pops right off. And that's literally it. Nothing more impressive than that. You can see here some motor stuff. Here's a serial number and a part number for whatever that is. You can see there's oil in here for some reason. I don't know. Nobody's gonna tell me. Here's the broken piece. You can see it kind of did some, it did a little bit of damage. Oh yeah, look at it go. So here we are with an entire drive unit, because I could not find someone that would just sell me that housing. So here we are. If you want to see an entire front drive unit be disassembled, follow along. Maybe look for it later. Don't subscribe to me, because I'm not gonna do anything but this, and nobody's gonna be impressed. The place that shipped it did a crazy job, so I gotta give them props. I've never seen an engine come in like that. Here's the motor mount. For some reason there's a difference in the 2015 version. I ended up using my 2014, which is the one on the right. Here it is. I got a shear plate, which they suggest in the manual. I could also not find that, so I just ended up making it out of 1/8" mild steel, and it sits pretty right there. Also came along and gave a scrape on the gasket there. I just put some RTV on there like you would on an oil pan. Tighten these down to 75 Newton meters. In this order, for some reason, that's what it says in the manual. But do whatever you want. I'm not gonna let Tesla be the boss of you. You're your own person. That's it. Everything's going back together. Looking good. Looking fresh. That's the entire video. Have fun out there. Don't break your car!